In October 2025, Canada finds itself at the center of a global trade storm. Prime Minister Mark Carney has launched a formal review of the 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles, a move with massive implications for Canada's economy and its relationships with the US and China. This isn't just about cars, it's about the future of Canadian industry, the fate of its farmers, and the country's place in a world split by superpower rivalry. The review follows a diplomatic thaw with China, but also comes as the US doubles down on protectionism under President Trump, demanding Canada maintain a united front. Carney now faces fierce lobbying from both auto sector leaders and agricultural producers, each fighting for survival as the country's economic identity hangs in the balance. The outcome will define Canada's prosperity in a rapidly changing world. The roots of Canada's dilemma trace back to 2024, when the US imposed a 100% tariff on Chinese EVs, citing unfair subsidies and overproduction. Canada quickly matched the tariff, aiming to protect its own auto sector and prevent becoming a backdoor for Chinese vehicles into North America. The return of Donald Trump to the White House only hardened this stance, with Washington insisting on a united front against China. China, in turn, condemned the tariffs as protectionist and warned of global supply chain disruptions. The stage was set for a broader economic conflict, as China prepared to retaliate in ways that would hit Canada where it hurts most. What began as a fight over cars soon threatened to engulf the entire Canadian economy. The stakes for Canada, and the world, couldn't be higher. China's retaliation was swift and strategic, targeting Canadian agriculture instead of autos. This was no random move. China knew exactly where to hit. By focusing on Canada's agricultural exports, Beijing aimed to inflict maximum economic pain while avoiding direct confrontation with the powerful auto sector, which could have triggered broader global repercussions. Heavy tariffs on canola seed, oil, and meal devastated prairie farmers, who rely on China as their largest export market. For many years of hard work and investment were suddenly at risk. The canola industry, worth billions to the Canadian economy, saw contracts cancelled overnight and shipments stranded at ports, leaving farmers with warehouses full of unsold crops. Meanwhile, new duties on pork and seafood spread the pain across rural Canada. Small communities dependent on these industries faced layoffs and uncertainty, as producers scrambled to find new buyers in an already competitive global market. The ripple effects were felt in local businesses, schools, and families. Suddenly, a dispute that started in auto factories became a direct threat to thousands of livelihoods on the farm. What began as a trade disagreement over cars now threatened the very fabric of rural life, turning distant diplomatic tensions into personal crises for families across the prairies. The market responded instantly. Rapeseed meal futures in China dropped on news of possible tariff relief, showing just how intertwined Canadian farmers are with Chinese buyers. Commodity prices fluctuated wildly, and analysts warned that long-term damage to Canada's reputation as a reliable supplier could linger for years. China's move created a powerful internal lobby in Canada, pitting farmers against auto workers and forcing Ottawa into an impossible position. Politicians faced mounting pressure from both sides, as rural communities demanded relief and urban industries warned against further escalation. The suffering of farmers became a potent political weapon, pressuring Carney to find a solution. Town halls grew heated and the media spotlight intensified, amplifying the voices of those most affected and making compromise seem ever more elusive. The message from Beijing was clear: protect your auto sector and your farmers will pay the price. China's negotiators made no secret of their intentions, using economic leverage to force Canada's hand and sending a warning to other nations watching the standoff unfold. Canada's economic fate now hinged on a delicate diplomatic dance, where every move was scrutinized and the stakes could not have been higher for both nations' futures. China's tariffs have split Canada down the middle: manufacturing versus agriculture, Ontario versus the prairies. The country now finds itself at a crossroads, with two of its most vital regions locked in a high-stakes standoff. On one side, the industrial heartland of Ontario, where assembly lines hum and the future of Canadian manufacturing is being shaped. On the other, the vast farmlands of the prairies, where generations of farmers have fed the nation and the world. Ontario Premier Doug Ford fiercely defends the auto tariff, citing $46 billion in investments and 157,000 jobs at stake. For Ford, the auto industry isn't just an economic engine, it's a symbol of Ontario's resilience and innovation. He argues that these jobs support families, communities, and the province's future prosperity. He warns that dropping the tariff would undermine years of work and risk the future of Canada's EV industry. The transition to electric vehicles, he says, is a once-in-a-generation opportunity, and Ontario must not lose its competitive edge to global rivals. The stakes for him are nothing less than the province's place in the new green economy. Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe, meanwhile, pleads for relief for farmers, arguing that their livelihoods shouldn't be sacrificed for auto sector protection. He points out that agriculture is the backbone of the prairies, supporting rural communities and contributing billions to the national economy. For Moe, the tariffs threaten not just crops, but the very survival of family farms. The clash between Ford and Moe highlights the regional and sectoral divides now tearing at Canada's political fabric. Legislators and citizens alike are forced to pick sides as the debate spills from parliament halls to kitchen tables across the country. The tension is palpable, with each side convinced that their future is on the line. Prime Minister Carney is caught in the crossfire, forced to choose between two economic pillars. Every move is scrutinized, every word weighed for its impact on jobs, trade, and national unity. The pressure on Ottawa has never been greater. Any decision risks alienating a key constituency and deepening national divisions. Protesters gather outside Parliament, while families from both sectors anxiously watch the news, hoping for a solution that won't leave them behind. The debate is no longer just about trade, it's about the soul of Canada's economy. It's a question of identity, values, and the kind of future Canadians want to build together. The outcome will shape not only economic policy, but the nation's sense of itself. Finding a compromise seems harder than ever. Yet, as the country stands divided, the need for unity and creative solutions has never been more urgent. Canada's ongoing tariff review unfolds under the ever-watchful gaze of Washington, where every move is scrutinized for signs of weakness or defiance. The stakes are higher than ever, as the United States keeps a close eye on its northern neighbors' trade decisions, wary of any shift that could undermine its own economic interests. President Trump's protectionist agenda dominates the conversation, setting a tone of confrontation and suspicion. His administration has made it clear that American jobs and industries come first, and any deviation from this stance is met with swift criticism. The U.S. frames the 100% tariff as a critical shield, defending North American manufacturing from the flood of Chinese imports. For Washington, this isn't just about economics, it's about national security and maintaining a competitive edge in a rapidly changing global market. Any sign of Canadian hesitation or reconsideration is quickly interpreted as a threat to the fragile unity that binds the continent's economies together. The pressure to present a united front is immense. The stakes for Canada are enormous. The U.S. has openly threatened to withdraw crucial funding from Canadian auto plants if Ottawa dares to break ranks, putting thousands of jobs and billions in investment at risk. Ontario's Premier Doug Ford has issued stark warnings, arguing that removing the tariff could leave Canada isolated on the world stage and provoke harsh retaliation from the U.S. government, with consequences that could ripple through the entire economy. The very investments the tariffs were designed to protect, factories, jobs, and future growth, now hang in the balance, threatened by the possibility of American withdrawal and a chilling effect on new investment. For Mark Carney, every decision is a delicate calculation, balancing not only the risks and rewards of engaging with China, but also the unpredictable reactions of Canada's most powerful neighbor. The U.S. is an unpredictable partner, sometimes an ally, sometimes a rival. Even the most logical, mutually beneficial deal with China could be twisted into a narrative of betrayal in Washington's eyes. In this climate, every diplomatic gesture is fraught with risk. A single misstep could trigger headlines of betrayal and spark political backlash on both sides of the border. Canada finds itself forced to negotiate on two fronts at once, trying to secure a fair deal with China while also maintaining trust and cooperation with the United States. The margin for error is razor thin. Every word, every handshake, every policy tweak is analyzed for hidden meaning and potential consequences. The diplomatic challenge facing Canada is as complex as it is perilous. A high-wire act between two global giants where the cost of a misstep could reshape the nation's economic future for years to come. At the heart of the debate is a $46 billion bet on Canada's EV future. This investment, shared by Ottawa and Ontario, aims to transform Canada into a global leader in green transportation and secure 157,000 jobs. The tariff is seen as insurance for this massive public and private commitment. But every hint of a policy shift sends shockwaves through both auto and agricultural markets, with billions in trade hanging in the balance. The dilemma: risk the EV investment for farm exports, or double down on protectionism and let farmers suffer. Carney must weigh the promise of a high-tech future against the immediate pain in rural Canada. The numbers tell a story of a nation at a crossroads. As the debate rages, leaders and experts sharpen the stakes. Prime Minister Carney remains cautious, emphasizing ongoing talks with China, but warning that Canada's auto sector overhaul is just beginning. Doug Ford is adamant: the tariff is non-negotiable, vital for Ontario's survival and North American solidarity. China's Premier Li Qiang signals willingness to restore agricultural trade if Canada addresses what Beijing calls unfair tariffs. Trade experts say Canada is caught in a classic squeeze when China and risk U.S. wrath, or hold the line and sacrifice farmers. No solution will please everyone. Every option comes with unavoidable costs. The tightrope walk grows ever more precarious. Canada isn't alone in this fight. Mexico has now joined the fray, imposing tariffs of up to 50% on Chinese and Asian imports, including autos. This marks a major shift, bringing Mexico closer to the US and Canada in confronting China's export juggernaut. President Sheinbaum says the goal is to protect Mexican industry. But Mexico's lower tariff rate could make it a new entry point for Chinese EVs. The move complicates Canada's calculus. Should it match Mexico's moderate approach, or stick with the US hard line? Meanwhile, Chinese EV brands are expanding rapidly in Europe, showing the global stakes of the contest. North America's defensive strategy is part of a larger chess match with China's auto industry. For Canada, every shift in the alliance changes the risks and opportunities. The global auto market has become a geopolitical battlefield. As autumn 2025 unfolds, Canada faces a defining choice. The tariff review is more than policy. It's a test of national priorities in a fractured world. Carney must balance a $46 billion industrial vision against the survival of Canadian farmers, all while navigating U.S. demands and Chinese leverage. The outcome will shape prices, jobs, and Canada's role in the global order. Middle power nations everywhere are watching, searching for lessons in how to survive between giants. The world will study Ottawa's decision as a case in modern statecraft. Canada's next move will echo far beyond its borders.